let us update on the other night. I think we went 3/4 players who you had to substitute in the FA Cup. Has there been enough time to get a prognosis? What's the situation with the four lads that you lost the other night?
Well, we're still monitoring them, so none of them have been ruled out for Saturday. So we'll cross our fingers, hope for the best. But we disappointed about going out the cup. We had to endure the pain of it, and on the night you lick your wounds on Wednesday, and then you have to put it to bed, and we have to come back all guns blazing. We're still in a good position in the league, and we've got to be positive in our outlook, and we've got to bounce into training, which the lads have done today, and bounce into Saturday's game, believing that the style of football that we're starting to play is getting better, and we're capable of making chances, and one day a lot of our chances are going to go in, and if we keep believing like that, we'll win more games than we don't.
Is it easier for you to be philosophical and keep things on an even keel because of all the experience you've got and the number of times you've excuse me, and the number of times you've been in this position, or when you've got a group of young players, are they quite fresh and not jaded by previous experiences?
But of both, it is. I have been able to deal with disappointments as I've got older better. Still doesn't mean that you don't get disappointed. Still doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, because it does, and it always will do. And the time it doesn't hurt, that's the time to stop, in my opinion, anyway. But the young lads, they can not deal with disappointments as well as what they should, and that's where they need a guidance. They need guidance, and they need help, and they need to be told where they can improve, and they need to reaffirm where they're doing well, and we need to build on what we know what they're capable of doing. The one thing you will say about our lads is that they run themselves into the ground. On the stats again were good through the night. We're starting to find a way to make chances. We've got to start taking more of them, and you've got to accept that things happen in life in general, but things happen in football that are setbacks for you, and you have to, the hurdles that you have to overcome, be it injuries, be it suspensions, be it sending offs, be it bookings, be it disallowed goals, be it fouls that haven't been given that should be given. There's injuries, there's loads of things that can affect you, and you've got to learn to deal with them, but you've got to accept it that's part of the game and embrace it. And the one thing about injuries, people always see it as a doom and gloom. The person who's coming in and getting a start isn't seen as doom and gloom. He's seen as a wonderful opportunity. So, some point there is a silver lining for some people, and we've got to cash in on that exuberance of the person who's getting the opportunity. We have got good competition with places. We've got a good set of lads in there who want to work hard and who want to learn. And that's good. If you've got a lot of lads who think they know everything, or who can't deal with disappointments, who aren't up for the challenge, who don't want to work, who don't want to communicate, well then you've got problems. We haven't got that. We've got the opportunity to win another game of football at home, hopefully in front of a full house. And our fans, when these games come up, they're terrific. Our fans, they're terrific anyway. When they've stood by us through thick and thin. But it's special when our fans get behind us. It is special, and there's no other place you want to be playing.
When you've got a player coming in, and you talk about that exuberance that they have, how soon do you tell them? If you tell them earlier, do you get more benefit from that exuberance? Or if you leave it late, do you get more of a reaction in the 90 minutes?
You have to judge the individual. Some players will get nervous about knowing that they're going to play. Some can't wait for the day. A lot will exert a lot of nervous energy that they don't want to, but they do. And so you just got to treat everyone on the merits. You know, when you get to know people, don't you get to know players, you get to know their personalities, and you know we'll do our preparation for the game properly tomorrow. Although we are in the process of the early stages of it, but the final stuff will be done tomorrow, and we'll have an idea of what team we're going to be able to put out on Saturday.
You talk about kind of the fate and the fortune element of player availability. Is that summed up as much as anything by the Josh Andrews situation, where, as I understand it, we're not talking about an injury, we're talking about illness that's ruled him out that nobody could have expected?
Oh, yeah. And this is football, you've got to be prepared. And when you get your chance, you've got to be prepared to grab it with both hands. And I go back to when we won the league in 17, 18. So Scotty Brown didn't start the season, and yet he kept himself in unbelievable condition, so that when that glimmer of hope appeared for him and he got in, he put us into a situation that we couldn't leave him out. He was outstanding. Now he could only do that if he kept himself in the condition to be able to take advantage of the opportunity that when it was presented to him. And that's just one of quite a few people who've done that over the years. But he stands out the most as how his impact on the team is incredible. And players have got to see that, and they've got to see that they have got an opportunity, and they've got to grab it with both hands. You know, Cody's had 2 games, and I think he's done really well in both games. Unfortunately, he had to come off as a precaution on Tuesday because of his groin, and he hadn't played a lot of football, so you know it's probably the right time to bring him off on Saturday. But and the booking hampered him a little bit. But Cody's going in the right direction. You know, the penny's starting to drop with Cody, what he needs to do. And all the other players who get that opportunity, you know, you can see that they're trying to grab it both hands. You know, Joe Gubbins, you know, I know we can be a little bit critical for him for the first goal. But I thought Joe, you know, stuck to his task well. When he's being called upon, Joe, you know, he hasn't let us down, and he's got a great attitude. And that's what you need. You need people like that around the club.
As far as this game is concerned, how do you make sure that your players are playing 11 Wrexham footballers rather than the phenomena that is Wrexham AFC and their now global reputation, I guess?
Well, yeah. I mean, it can become a circus, can't it? We can't govern outside looking in. What we can do is we can govern what we look at. And you know, I know they've got the global reputation now with the film stars. But you speak to any person in the 70s and ask them who's the most famous club, Accrington or Wrexham, they'll say Accrington. So it's got its own merits on it.
Clearly, it's shone a light, particularly across the Atlantic, on lower division and non-league football, this document. I've got no idea if you've seen any of it. Is it a good thing for football, as a man who's grown up in non-league and lower division football, for a wider audience to see it?
To answer your question, I haven't watched the documentary. And I think it is a good thing. I think, you know, the lower leagues provide some unbelievable entertainment. Because there's so many big clubs now in the UK, and particularly England, that some have to filter down to League One and League Two. And so football didn't begin and end in 1992 with the Premier League. Football's been a fantastic sport that I've loved ever since I can remember hugging my brother when Jeff Astle scored the winner in the FA Cup final. So that's my first memory of football, and I've loved it ever since. And it's given you so much pleasure, it's given you so much pain, it's given you so many friends, lifelong friends, and not all that is centred around a Premiership. I think it's good that the lower league teams, you know, particularly with the international duty, do get the moment in the sun.
I appreciate definitely not the same level of budget or scale of production. But you've been part of a fly on the wall documentary where things that normally happen behind closed doors and people who are perhaps not known to the wider public get put in the spotlight. What's that like? What must it be like for the Wrexham staff and players to be involved with that and it to be on such a high profile scale?
Yeah, ours was only for about 3 or 4 months, maybe 4 or 5 months. And you don't like it, and I didn't like it as a professional, you know, and trying to do your job. But you have to understand that the benefits for the club have to come before your own feelings. And it's difficult to switch yourself off. It's difficult not to be self-conscious about it. Some might argue that people will play up to the cameras. I don't think, if you watch the documentary, I don't think we did. Certainly Eric didn't, I don't think. Eric was Eric. And it does pose a problem, but you've got to put it to the back of your mind. And, you know, if you want to be successful, you're going to get more exposure than that. You know, if you want to go to the very top, look at the exposure that you get at the very top. You can't breathe without someone commenting on it. So it's part and parcel of the territory. And if we could have 1,000 cameras here following us because we're doing well, I'd be embracing it, not moaning about it.
Purely football-wise, they've got a good thing going, haven't they, on the pitch? I think the double figures game's unbeaten now. Clearly, the investment and the exposure means they have been able to invest in that squad and come out of the National League and do really well in this division. Just how formidable a prospect are they as a team?
Yeah, I think one of the problems problems that for the teams like of our stature is once teams can spend a lot of money, it's very, not easy, but it makes it more straightforward to achieve success. So everyone, to a certain extent, who spent money in the conference and in League Two have gone on to at least get promoted. And because they can buy recognised players who they know can do a job in that league and probably the league above, and it becomes akin to using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut. And so we have to just roll our sleeves up and be prepared to accept our heads on. And I've always had this argument, you know, sometimes you can lose the hunger in the players, and what's made Accrington successful is hungry players. Even going back to when we won the conference, when we had the second lowest budget when we won the conference, our mantra at that time, I remember, you know, obviously Jimmy was there as well, but Paul Cook was the first team coach, and our mantra then was young, hungry fighters. That's what we wanted, and we had them in abundance, but good players as well. And I still maintain that for what we've got at Accrington, the model will work, or it has worked. It's worked quite successfully for many a year. Is we get players who we think can go higher. We give them the opportunity to play. They've got to have the hunger to earn big money. They're not going to earn it with us, but we'll give them the platform to go and earn it somewhere else. And then if we can get the service off them for a couple of years, they're playing 70, 80 games for us, and then we can sell them as well, and then they get the riches that they've earned, then everyone's a winner. And that model we've got to have that. Now Wrexham's model is slightly different because, you know, they've come in and, you know, I think there was purported losses of 9 or 10 million, wasn't it? In the last couple of weeks that it's come out. Well, we could lose our club for eternity, and that's something I know Andy Holt won't risk. And he's been very astute in how he's gone about getting us to be in a respectable level in Football League. You know, the facilities here just weren't good enough, and possibly at best minimum standard. And so what he has done is he's made sure that there's a football club here that can be in the league for as long as we can compete in the league, but we won't be outdone by the lack of facilities. So he's got that house in order quite readily and done it well. And, you know, if you look at the surroundings, here for a long time as well. You know, that's not just it's not a quick fix like we've always had at Accrington, quick fixes. You know, mend the roof with Bill getting up and doing his best and stop it, you know, and stop the rain for 3 or 4 weeks. That's gone, and that puts us in a far, far better position and a less precarious position than what we've been in the past. But we still have, you know, our ideals that we've got to adhere to, and we certainly will never ever risk losing the club, as other teams have and other sets of supporters have found out to the detriment. We certainly won't do that, and you know, that's one thing I think we can be proud of. As I've said time and time again, you know, if you had a team who was ever headed towards administration, it should be us, but we haven't. And I think that's something that, not just myself, I've played a very, very minor part in this, but there's a lot of people who've done a lot of work. Sound like Cilla Blackdale, aren't I? A lot. To make sure this club didn't go into receivership and didn't go into admin. And so whatever happens in the future, the club is stable, and you know, that should be commended.